Welcome to episode 244 of the Shared Security Show. And joining me as the one and only co-host, Mr. Scott Wright.
Yes, sir. I love that sound, the one and only.
One and only with PC problems, apparently.
Oh, man, it was a disaster getting here, but it's snowstorms and hail and everything, so.
It's just like the mail. The mail will always be delivered. You're just like the postal service.
Hey, you know what? If I didn't make it, I know you would carry on single-handedly, so.
I would try. I've never done a solo podcast episode, but I could do it. I could definitely do it. As you can see, we're not joined by Kevin Johnson either. Well, you're here, but Kevin isn't here. So
either, yeah. Like Scott's not here either.
My bad.
Yeah. Anyways, it's Friday afternoon. As far as
it is Friday afternoon, so let's get started here. Obviously, the big story I think is it's been all over the news, which is the Uber breach.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to recap the whole thing, but I did want to highlight a certain a couple really important tidbits about this attack. First of all, it was an 18-year-old hacker that did this.
Yeah.
So someone that hasn't been well known. He's very well known now.
Yeah, made a name for himself.
He may be living in infamy now, but and I think the attack angle of this is interesting. So first of all, just for those of you that maybe not know what this story is about, but Uber got hacked, and they got hacked really bad, where this hacker had access to everything, including things like HackerOne vulnerability reports, Slack, access to internal systems, internal PowerShell scripts. You name it.
Yeah.
This guy had access to it. And the attack vector was essentially social engineering. Looks like he found this employee's WhatsApp number, sent a direct message instructing the user to go to a fake Uber site. And this grabbed this person's credentials in real time, and then it generated a two-factor authentication code. And apparently, the attacker was able to send so many of these requests to the victim that he eventually had to click the approval button with the two-factor. And this is something that we talked about on a previous episode called multi-factor authentication fatigue.
Yeah,
essentially.
Yeah, a really interesting approach. And it's sort of timely. Like you said, we just talked about this, and it sort of indicates maybe he was just trying to exploit that thing that, I think the recommendation from our last discussion on this was that people should change from the push notifications where people just have to acknowledge, an attempt, I think it is, right, to log in, to now they should really be using some kind of a code that they have to type in.
Well, yeah, that's definitely one approach. I think we also just said, like, if you're getting multiple requests like these, you may actually be under attack.
Yeah.
I know I've seen systems where, like VPN systems, that actually will continuously prompt you, or prompt you every 5 minutes, or there are some configurations you could probably make, or changes those configurations where it doesn't only prompts you, say, maybe once or twice, and then it stops prompting you. But this is becoming a pretty popular attack vector.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm going to co-opt this whole segment and make it the Aware Much segment, because this isn't... because when you think about this from an end user's point of view, they have no idea. Things are changing all the time, right? And our stupid IT department just implemented some new thing. I don't know what's going on, but I get all these MFA notifications, right? I mean, it's so plausible. There's no, unless you tell people to watch out for these things, they are likely to just fall for it, right? And unfortunately, the help desk guy did.
Yeah, exactly. And there was actually a follow-on to this story. So last week, actually, I believe it was the beginning of this week, because the Uber attack happened last week, and this will be 2 weeks for those of you listening on a Monday. But Rockstar Games was also hacked by the same hacker, and
been busy.
He's been very busy. So he goes by the name of Teapot Uber Hacker.
Okay.
and he had he compromised some systems within Rockstar Games that makes the popular video game Grand Theft Auto.
Hmm.
So the new version of Grand Theft Auto coming out, apparently he released 90 videos of the upcoming game to some forum, and it also stole some source code as well. And that obviously is bad for a video game company. That's your proprietary
Yeah.
information about an upcoming
So I
game.
guess we don't put
So
this guy in the category of security researcher. Like he's definitely gone to the dark side.
yeah. Yeah, he's beyond what Kevin classifies as researcher in quotes. I would say so. But the last point I'll make about this is obviously there's been a lot of talk about this in the security community, and mixed types of discussions about, well, Uber should have known better, and this goes to show that they deserve to be hacked and all these things. And I want to say that, like, this can happen to any company.
Yep.
Uber just happened to be the latest victim of this. So,
Yeah.
this doesn't mean that,
Yeah.
it's a rub on Uber, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like this stuff is hard,
Yep.
and this is just another attack vector that any company could suffer.
Yeah, and
Really.
it's an opportunity for lesson learned for sure. I mean, sounds like with all the access the guy had, there could possibly be a security architecture issue there, right? With all the
Absolutely.
systems that he was able to reach by just hacking that one account. So
But I'd argue too, like, how many organizations are soft and chewy inside, right? Like once you get past that first layer,
yeah,
you usually have unfettered access to. I mean,
yeah,
we see this on pen tests all the time.
yeah.
So this is not
It's a
surprising.
poster child for zero trust architecture.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's so true. So, well, Scott, why don't we now jump into, well, you kind of covered a little bit of Aware Much, but we did have another story, which I
Yeah, we
think
have.
is really fun
Yeah,
with Aware Much this
and
week.
plus we needed time to stop and do the flames.
There you go. There's the
All
flames.
right. And Kevin loves it when you say "aware much."
Aware Much?
I love it. I love the way you say that too. I can't even say
Thank
it
you.
that way.
Thank you.
Um, yeah. So this is an interesting story. It's all around disposal of information assets, right? And so
Say it
when,
isn't so.
yeah, I mean, and when you're working in a financial institution at like a big bank, like say Morgan Stanley, and you have a bunch of old devices lying around that you need to update and get replaced, what do? Well, you call a moving company and just say, "Hey, take these away and get rid of them." No, you don't. No, no. So this happened to Morgan Stanley. It was pretty amazing how severe, the amount of sensitive information that was released, and then once it was discovered, I'm not sure how long ago this story was, but I guess it had been brought to the attention of some authorities, right? And
The Securities and Exchange
yeah, I was
Commission
thinking
in the
that's what it
United
was, but yeah.
States.
So
Yeah.
and they were penalized. Was it $35 million?
$35 million,
Right.
because they've been doing this since 2015.
It just sounded to me like the story was, okay, some new manager was told to do something and he called up, okay, so what do I do? I'll just get these guys to take it out, right? So it was like a one-time thing, didn't follow policies, but maybe not.
Yeah. It was a moving company they hired that has no expertise in
Yeah.
data destruction or data
And
handling.
they've been doing it for that long. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's the lesson here, Scott?
Well, the lesson is first of all, have an asset inventory. It's not so much a general security awareness thing, but from a security program planning point of view, managers have to know that you need a program for disposing of sensitive information assets after once you have identified the fact that these guys we don't need anymore. You have to account for what happens to them, right, over time. And so when it's time to get rid of them, you've got to make sure you dispose of them securely. So that usually means having a security cleared contractor or somebody take them away in a secured facility and destroy them, or at least securely erase them. So that's the typical process. And from an awareness point of view, people should be watching out for those things when they think their device is about to be replaced or needs to be replaced, yeah, just ask about the process and say, try and make sure that they are treating it as sensitive information.
Yeah, I think the lesson here for all of us that have phones and laptops and things that we sell, and sometimes we put on eBay or we give to a friend or family member, to erase
Oh
the
yeah,
information on your systems that you're getting rid of. And this is a big bank
yeah,
that
yeah.
obviously has a
We
lot of
have
sensitive
done
information, but
stories kind of like this before that were very much smaller, right? And on the personal scale. So
yeah,
yeah, on the personal level, for sure. I mean, I don't know how many old Blackberries I have sitting in a cabinet somewhere because I
right.
don't want to actually have to figure out how to destroy them or dispose of them securely. That might be one reason. I don't know if there's other reasons, but yeah, personal devices, everything that has a cord or gets recharged has memory in it, and you need to properly reset them to factory defaults would be the easiest thing if you can. And I don't know what you would recommend for personal computers if you're disposing of them, Tom. What would you recommend?
Well, most of the operating systems, I mean, they all have a way of wiping, or at least setting things back to factory default. We could put some links in the show
Yeah,
notes of some utilities that you could actually run, third-party utilities that actually do more secure wiping
yeah,
of
I
the
would
hard
say
drive.
factory
And
defaults on PCs may not necessarily be that reliable because it might just delete the files,
that's
which
right.
doesn't really delete them, right? So
Yep. Exactly. Yep.
So having a secure deletion program is a good idea, which will
Hmm.
go in and write to every sector of the memory, at least overwrite it to some degree, make it harder to recover, if not impossible.
Exactly.
Yeah. So those are great tips, and I think overall, from a corporate point of view, yeah, you need a program for evergreening hardware and making sure that stuff gets disposed of properly. So that was a segment of Aware Much brought to you by ClickArmor. And ClickArmor is the first fully gamified security awareness training and education platform. And what that means is that it gets people on board much easier, much quicker, get them through the process of their security awareness training or their assessments. It's a much more enjoyable program. And it's not just playing games, it's really getting people to stay engaged because every time you go into a lesson, it's very interactive. And so you have to keep thinking about something. And contrary to popular belief, even though people are always looking for excuses not to do security awareness training, what we found is people actually do like a challenge if it's not stupid. So
That's very true.
we got even today, talking to customers, they have great feedback on the experience of using ClickArmor for phishing, for social engineering, for working from home, and we have a new module coming out for privacy, which will be great for GDPR, California
Mm,
privacy laws, HIPAA, and even the Canadian privacy laws,
wow.
which are really strict, by the way.
They are. Yeah.
So that's it. Go visit clickarmor.ca and check us out. It's going to be great to talk to you and get your feedback on what you think about security awareness in general and what the challenges are for you. Hope we can help you.
Well, thank you, Scott.
Thank you,
Much
Tom. So
appreciated.
what's our next
You're welcome.
story?
So our last story is to talk about why deleting something from a service like a social network is almost impossible.
Yeah.
So we've kind of mentioned this in the past. Actually, our last episode we talked about how Facebook says they don't know where your data is. Some Facebook engineers had said that
Yes.
in some testimony. But now new testimony has also come out from the Twitter whistleblower. So
Mm-hmm.
Peter Mudge Zatko, who we also have talked about
Yeah.
on this show, told a Senate committee last week that Twitter does not necessarily delete the data of users who cancel their accounts.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and this is just one of many things that he had to complain about Twitter since he had worked there as their chief security
Yeah.
officer. And this is a little surprising considering that it's almost a false narrative, right? In some ways, of if you want to delete your data and they give you the control to do that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You can actually go in and say, I want you to delete my data. he says that, um, you know, that it really begins a deletion process, but there's no proof that it actually completes.
Yeah, that's really interesting. A couple of things about that. First of all, that reminds me of, remember, it's been a long time, but I used to have kids, they'd sit in the back seat of the car and you get those little fake dashboards where you can make like you're turning and driving, and it's kind of like that,
Yeah,
right? You give people the feeling like they're actually
it's
driving,
just not
but they're
real
not.
though.
And the whole process you described there, where you can initiate it but it doesn't really end, reminds me of, I think I know you've deleted your Facebook account, I think, recently, right?
And Instagram,
But
yeah.
in 2010, I remember specifically because I remember where I was when you told me this. There was this big push to delete your Facebook account back then too. And I remember you
Mhm.
saying you had gone through the process of starting the deletion, going through all the things. Oh yeah, okay, here, delete my account. And then like sometime a few days later, you ended up accidentally clicking a link that took you to Facebook page, and all of a sudden
Yep,
magically it reactivates your account. So
that's
it
right.
was giving you some kind of grace period to come back and say, "Oh, I didn't really mean to delete it."
Yes, they give you options, but I think they on purpose make it very difficult to delete your data. But I find it fascinating that even on the back end, they're still struggling to delete your data. And I don't know if it's malicious, right? I don't think it's that they are purposely doing that. But
Yeah,
like Mudge had said, and like these Facebook engineers have said, that the environments are so complicated and the data, how data is stored, has just grown into this massive beast, right? I think it's just they're challenged by tech debt. They're challenged by the complexity of the systems that they've built, and I think
yeah.
that's just where we're at.
I think that's true, and I think that it could also be that there are rogue employees or people with different call them KPIs for getting job bonuses or something like that, where the more data they have or whatever under their control, the more they get paid or something, and so it's really hard for them to let go of somebody's data when they're getting paid to not do that.
Yeah. So the lesson here is, even if you have good intentions and you think that a social network or a company is going to remove and delete all of your data, that may not necessarily be true. So just think twice, right, before using one of these apps or these systems, because you're putting a whole lot of trust
Yeah.
into those companies.
Yeah, I mean, it's an ongoing thing, right? Because anything you post, as we've talked about before, could eventually be exposed. Maybe it's against their terms of service, maybe it was accidental, but whatever it is, you and I have talked about, don't post anything, even in private chats, if you really don't want them to ever be revealed to, your parents or your grandmother or your boss or something like that, right?
It's a story old as time.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
keep telling it.
yeah,
Anything you post on the internet is public information.
yeah. We
That's
we
right.
often forget that.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Well, I think that's all we have time for this week, Scott.
Yeah.
But thank you for joining me.
Yeah,
Much appreciated.
it was a battle getting here, but
I'm
hopefully,
glad you're here, though.
well,
Yeah.
me too, me too.
I'm glad you're here, and maybe we will crowdfund you a new PC
Yeah,
for
yeah, we won't
we
go
can
into
give you for the podcast.
my financial affairs.
Oh, I'm just saying, maybe we'll just buy you a PC.
Okay, a corporate shared security
Just
PC.
for the
I
podcast.
think the
Yeah,
shared security
exactly.
show should actually fund equipment for all of us.
There we
From
go.
all our
There we
sponsorship
go.
money that we're gathering.
One day when we're making the big
Yes.
bucks. Yeah. We're not there yet, trust me.
So please send in that money.
That's right. That's right. Like I could do a Patreon or
Yeah, we could
something,
do
but
Patreon. Why don't we do?
what's funny is
Then we'd be a
why?
real
Because
podcast.
they
Yeah, they
just
got
laid
hacked.
off
Well,
their
that's our
entire
next week's story.
security team. I didn't cover that as a story, but right now Patreon's not being viewed very positively in the security community because they fired their whole security team.
Yep. Yep.
So maybe I don't want to use them as a service.
There's probably alternatives.
Yeah.
Okay.
So until next time, Scott, thank you again. And we will talk to all of you next week.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, hit that like and subscribe button. To catch all the latest from the show, visit our website, sharedsecurity.net. Follow us on Twitter at SharedSec and join our Reddit community on the Shared Security Show subreddit.